What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, our good friend Logan posted this the other day, and I thought it'd be fun to interact with this because I think the comment section is going to be a lot of fun when talking about this one. So, Diazin LA NFL posted this, and it has fan experience grades for the past 10 years. So, that would mean going all the way back to 2014 to now. So there's a lot of different years to go into that. But if you look at what they had or what this person had as the Colts fan experience grade, we're sitting here at 21st with a D+. Now let's dissect that grade a little bit, shall we? Cody, we know that what was happening in 2014, you had Andrew Luck. This team was going to the playoffs virtually every year that he was the starter. Very close to a Super Bowl, actually, in 2014 when, the whole thing with Deflategate happened. But, you had Andrew Luck and, things were going okay. Even with the occasional injuries that he had and, had to miss a season there in 2017, things were going pretty good. And then obviously Andrew Luck shocked the NFL world by announcing his retirement in 2019. And from there, the Colts went from a playoff team to hardly contending for the playoffs. 2019, you had a losing record. 2020, you bring in Phillip Rivers. And, you brought in Frank Reich in 2017. And, you had Phillip Rivers come in 2020. You made the playoffs. One and done, though, at that point. And then in 2021, you were supposed to make the playoffs, but somehow, some way you didn't. 2022, you went 4-13. You had Matt Ryan. You fired your coach mid-season. And then in 2023, you drafted Anthony Richardson. You brought in a new coach. Richardson goes down with injury. The team just misses the playoffs by being unable to beat the Texans in the last game of the season. And then obviously in 2024, you finish with a losing record again, and with a lot more questions than answers. So do you think that D+ grade is justified for a fan experience over the last 10 years?
I do, because you didn't even mention some of the heartbreak that happened within that. Andrew Luck in 2019, that was obviously devastating for fans. Yep. Then, you think you have it figured out in 2020. You trade for Carson Wentz. Look what happens the final two games of the season. Everybody's excited. You go and lose to the Raiders, and then you go and lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville when all the fans of the Jaguars are wearing clown masks. Like, it was awful. It was just a terrible experience, and we're not even halfway done, Derek. Like, that's just what happened within the span of a couple of years. Then 2022, the crap that all happened there, with the Colts just being terrible, Frank Reich getting fired, just Saturday coming in, winning one game and then losing the rest. You blow the biggest lead in NFL history that year, and it's just an absolute mess. Then, in 2023, you draft Anthony Richardson. He goes down with injuries. So it's just this huge thing. Gardner Minshew comes in, plays pretty well for you. And then what happens, Derek? Tyler Goodson drops that pass, and boom, you lose. You're not in the playoffs again. So you lose in another heartbreaking way. It's like Colts fans have a shred of optimism, and then all of a sudden your heart gets ripped out. And then you go back to 2024. Anthony Richardson's healthy. There's more hype again, right? Yeah, 2023 was heartbreaking, but Anthony Richardson's back, right? And then 2024, he's not good at all, right? And to the point where he gets benched. Derek, that felt like the longest couple weeks ever, honestly. When he got benched, It was just crazy. Fans are talking about everything. It's just a disaster. The Colts didn't necessarily always handle it the best way. It was just a complete disconnect, I think, in a lot of ways, from fans to the organization. And so that was a huge thing. So it's like every year there's some sort of dramatic thing that has happened, it feels like, with the Colts, right? So it's just always been heartbreak. That's just kind of what it feels like, right? It's just heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. Then I didn't even mention the Denver game this last year. You think you're going up, Jonathan Taylor drops the ball at the 1 yard line. Like that was just like an epitome of the Colts fan experience right there, like in the last 10 years. That's what it's been, man. So I think a D plus is fine because, yeah, while you've made the playoffs at least a couple times here in the last decade, you've also had an equal amount of just traumatic things happen to the point where it's almost comical at this point. It's so ridiculous. So, yeah, I think D plus is more than fair, honestly.
Recency bias plays a lot into this fan experience grade, I can tell. Obviously, for past 10 years, like if you just took 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and you just did those, then you might say that it's a little bit higher just simply because, sure, you have Andrew Luck doing his thing, and, the Indianapolis Colts were in the mix for a lot of those years. But then, like you said, just the traumatic experience of witnessing Andrew Luck leave is just the worst. It was the worst night of my life. It was literally the worst night of my life. I remember me and Andrew literally went on an episode and literally just talked for hours about just how like distraught we were at what was happening. And
we're
it's
just like holding back tears the whole time, man. It was holding back tears the whole time.
The whole time, dude. I'm pretty sure I still have a video of me like in a dark room going to bed saying that this is the worst night of my life on Twitter somewhere, dude. I was so distraught. And
it still haunts you that many years later,
It does, and it doesn't bother me as much anymore because I've moved on. I don't let it affect my everyday life, but there are still some Colts fans that refuse to let it go. So it was a traumatic experience, man. It's one of the most traumatic NFL experiences that has ever happened in the history of the NFL. Because never really before has a quarterback in their prime and a quarterback that was, a top 5 quarterback easy at that time just decided to hang it up just like that. So doesn't happen very often.
It's unheard of, man. I don't know. It's like there's so many things that, where you kind of ask the question, where did it all go wrong? And obviously Andrew Luck, that one is the big answer, but there's a lot of missteps along the way that have led us to the point where we're at now, where we're still in this place of almost like constant suffering. That's kind of how it's felt like. So, and we've got a big taste of reality really the last number of years, Derek, of, we were so spoiled, right, for so many years with Peyton Manning, with Andrew Luck, and now we've really experienced it from 2020 on, this quarterback purgatory. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. Colts haven't found a quarterback long term. They've taken shots at guys like Carson Wentz, at obviously Anthony Richardson, but it just continues to be this kind of merry-go-round of all this quarterback carousel stuff. It's just, it's been rough. It's been really rough. And that was the start of it, and Colts never recovered from it, and they still haven't recovered from it.
Yep. It's been a rough time, man. It's been a rough time. I think the Colts fan base is just we just want a playoff win, dude. Like at this point, us winning a playoff game would just like almost set us over the edge at this point. We just want Anthony Richardson to figure it out. We just want this team to make the playoffs, win a playoff game, and then, don't matter if we lose that next week or not. We just want to, win one and say that we know we're on the right track. And
it'll be so nice to actually feel confident in like having a franchise quarterback. It feels like all these teams now have a guy that they're excited about, like teams that didn't have it back when Andrew Luck was playing even, or Peyton Manning, right? So it'll be nice to feel that feeling again because it's been a while. It's been an absolute disaster of the last number of years. So,
True
yeah,
that.
I don't disagree with D plus for because of the uncertainty at quarterback, especially.
Yep, no doubt. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on that fan experience grade, how you feel about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always,